And hello, everybody. I am John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. And thanks for joining us today. It's Tuesday, December the 12th, a little bit after 11 a.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. And it's really a pleasure to bring our good friend Hrvoje Morić back to the show for a little update. We kind of mutually update each other once a month. It's been a pleasure for the past year or so, Hrvoje, and I do appreciate your time. You're a very, very busy guy, and fitting us in is always a pleasure for me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I just always love chatting with people from around the world, learning about different cultures, ways of thinking. I even chatted with Doc. Here's some news. Doc Malik out in UK, who's got a growing following, who just got fired for believing in medical freedom. He's going to have me on his podcast next month, so that's going to be fun, and hopefully, I get to have him on mine as well at some point. But yeah, I just love talking to everyone.
Oh, now what's his specialty?
I forget exactly what, but basically, I think what had happened was apparently he had on his podcast Eva Bartlett. You might be familiar with.
Sure.
She's Canadian, covering Syria, Palestine,
Yeah.
Ukraine, and because of her view on Palestine, he was canceled by his practices, or various hospitals canceled him. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah, it is insane, and it really points to a really, really deep problem in our world, in our world culture. Um, I have been doing some research of my own to try to find out the roots of this problem, as many people around. And one of the things that makes me happy is when I see other people digging things up and sharing them. That I find, if it has the ring of truth to it, then I'm grateful. And there's a lot of people that can do that. There's a lot of stuff being shoveled at us, that kind of to distract us. A certain welcoming back to Twitter of a certain AJ, but that's a big distraction for what, I don't know. A large percentage of the people are going to go, oh my, let's talk about whether Elon and AJ are going to be buds again. Uh, I don't care, but I do care for the existence of Twitter or X because I get a lot of good stuff from that. And but uh, the, the benefits far outweigh the negatives, but we have to use our critical thinking filters, don't we?
Yeah, I did listen to that Twitter space on double speed, as I do everything the other day. I think it was like almost 3 hours. I listened to an hour and a half. Um, and even my own subscribers, they keep bringing up in my Telegram group channel, Geopolitics and Empire, there's some spat between Ryan Dawson and Whitney Webb regarding, she plagiarized him, which I don't even think is true. And they say, oh, maybe the admin, I should have Ryan to talk about. It's like kind of like you say, who cares about these spats between different people? I don't have time for that. There are much more important things to be doing. Whether it's as you say, this stuff between Elon and Alex Jones and whatnot. And so yeah, some distractions. Also, there's going down the rabbit hole. I've talked about this before in my TNT radio program, but there's this idea that David Icke talked about this. I'm not really a fan of David Icke. He says some stuff that's accurate, but he came out speaking against this recent talk between Jones and Musk. How he called it the mainstream alternative media now, and I think there's something to this where you're getting. I think the elites are playing a game now where they're co-opting the alternative media. So I think that in a way, Alex Jones and Elon Musk are actually um, being used by the elites. So
Well, what about David Icke himself?
I would agree as well. Yeah.
So you have to be careful, I mean, we can, from there, I go to Russell Brand, Russell Brand, is he a true independent thinker that's out there to save us from getting swallowed up by the media minds of, the evil empire, or is he part of it? And one of the things that I kind of decided a long time ago is that anybody that gets that kind of recognition, or anybody that gets to a high office, or anybody that gets above a certain rank in the military, or you know, in corporate world, or anywhere else, that they are there for a reason, and they couldn't possibly have an independent voice if they've been elevated to that much visibility. It's just they just don't let you do that.
No, it's exactly that. And someone was pointing out, Andrew Tate, his father, CIA, uh, Tucker, father, CIA,
Yeah.
Jones, entire family, CIA military. So again, you notice this trend. We may have touched on this before. Dave McGowan wrote the book Laurel on Laurel Canyon, about how so many of the 60s and 70s rock musicians, all of their parents came from military, intelligence, Air Force. There's just a pattern here you cannot unsee.
There's a killer on the road. Yeah, Jim Morrison. And
Yeah,
somehow
his father was what? It's in the book, Air Force
he
or
was,
something,
he
something
was
like that.
admiral, I think, involved in the
Gulf
the
Duncan, right? Like Duncan Gulf, yeah.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's true, but uh, and well, culture itself has been imposed upon us, and that's a huge topic. I thought I wanted to get back to digging deeper than that, though, because sure, Hollywood, Tinseltown, it's all show business, but there is serious business back behind it, and I'm looking for sources here. And one of the things I thought about asking you, if you don't mind, is about Geneva, Switzerland. And while a lot of people will put the driving force of our evil in the world on Wall Street, or the City of London, or the Vatican, or Russia, or the right wingers of Texas, or they've got everybody's got a number of candidates, but one that interests me a lot is Switzerland. And to what extent do you think, or have you studied the question? I know you lived in Geneva for a while and studied geopolitics there. Tell me what you can tell me about the importance of Switzerland in our world today.
I think it's a bit overlooked. And recently, there was a short video that was published by, I think his name is Pascal Najadi, if I'm not mistaken, whose father was the co-founder of World Economic Forum with Cobra Commander Klaus Schwab, but who broke away, who went rogue, because he believed, what was being planned was evil. And so this Pascal guy, I think he lives in Switzerland, and he recently put out a short video talking precisely about this, how Switzerland is the heart of darkness, so to speak. Um, and so I think it's getting renewed attention. And if you just think about it, they try to, in the news, they try to avoid it, as you kind of just alluded to. Look at the Vatican, look at the City of London, and we should be looking at the City of London. We should be looking at the Vatican. I think they interlock, um, but just look at Switzerland, Geneva, the banks, the Bank of International Settlements. Half of Geneva are at any given point in time are what do you call it, is populated by foreigners, because they're coming and going for working at the IGOs, NGOs, and so everything's there. WHO, the infrastructure of the world government, a huge part of it is there. WEF, the telecommunications union, which like manages the internet, or parts of it, WHO, WTO, Red Cross, and all these NGOs that are used by the elites to do all of this stuff. And so Lucis Trust, we've talked about before, they've got an office in Geneva, which I visited. And so yeah, I would consider Geneva one of, I'm not sure if it's the keynote, or it was probably like in the top three, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was an independent republic for a while, and of course, the other thing that comes out of Geneva is John Calvin and Calvinism. I don't know to what extent you're interested in the study of historic religion, but the connection between a Calvinism and a real pure, tulip Calvinism to the supremacy of financial systems over humans uh, is very clear to me. And I think the philosophy behind we're going to have secret bank accounts and nobody's going to be able to figure it out, and we're going to hide all our money, and we're going to have this huge amount of wealth that nobody's ever going to be able to find, and we're going to use that to control the rest of the world. Uh, you know, because why? Because we are the chosen people. We've been selected by predestination to get to heaven. And so what we're going to do now is just act out and do what we think is best to make sure that we go to heaven, and the rest of them, just become serfs or servants or fall by the wayside or get the heck off of our oil. Um, I find the possibility of these religions like Calvinism, which is very exclusive, and certain forms of Judaism that are very exclusive, to be tied to the idea that finance is more important than morality or humanity or empathy or any of the qualities that we seek in a future world that we can all live in. So, have you any opinions on the effect of Calvinism on our world today?
Well, a little, I actually, my belief, my faith does espouse more exclusive, the biblical interpretation. I would not call myself a Calvinist. I don't like to um, follow any man, right? I'm not a Calvinist. I do appreciate, of course, John Calvin's teachings. No one is perfect. I do believe in predestination, but when I say it's an exclusive faith, but it's open to all, right? It's the belief is exclusive. Christ is the only way to salvation, but it's open to all. Not like what you're saying, the elites now. And I think elites or bad actors can take some of these principles in a corrupted way and make it their own, kind of like what you're saying. So my view is that these elites that we're talking about are Malthusian, and they view us as like nasty bugs. So they wouldn't want to include us, right? They want to do away with us. Whereas the Calvin's, I think, Christian worldview is that the biblical faith is it's exclusive because you have to believe in Jesus. There's no other way. You can't just do good works and make your way to heaven. But it's open to all. Whereas the Davos elite are like, we want to call most of you. So
Well, I'll try to uh, uh, keep it short, but my response is that there's a very famous and easy to see video of Alan Dulles being interviewed by a young, uh, I don't remember who it was, but one of the young TV anchors at the times in the early 60s. And, he asked him a lot about, the things that he does and all. And you remember Alan Dulles will sit back in his leather chair with his pipe and just puff some smoke out and give us, a smart ass answer. And his answer was, well, I am a Calvinist. And I've always remembered that, because if you as a Calvinist are able to identify who to sort the sheep from the wolves, or the grain from the chaff, the wheat from the chaff, then you've got an attitude in which you can do things. You can create war. You can use people to achieve your ends, and you can use any means necessary, and Machiavellian means. I don't.
I
I,
would just add, I don't think that means Dulles is a Calvinist or Christian, because look at the things that he did. It's like George Bush saying, "God told me." He actually said, "God told me to invade Iraq." I think that was with Jacques Chirac, And Chirac looked at him like he's crazy, and he's pretending to be a Christian, whereas what by his words, but by his actions, he's literally doing everything fully removed from Christianity. You got Jews today, a lot of the people practicing Judaism protesting Zionism, right? Saying that that's not Judaism, that's not who we are. Or we could even John used the same example for some Muslims who say, look at this radical guy who calls himself a Muslim and he's going to carry out jihad, whereas you got Muslims who don't do that, right?
I don't know if it's true, but I saw a report that the U.S. House of Representatives had voted a resolution that said that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And that goes to your point, and to one of the things that has been troubling me this week and in the past few days, is that this idea of greater Israel is real to Zionists. I thought the Zionism was just to like let's go back to the promised land, let's go home, let's be happy where our religion started, and but none of the idea of territorial expansion. The territory was set up by the British, and it had lines, and it has boundaries and things, and but that has nothing to do with the belief system that Benjamin Netanyahu is pushing forward, where he is basically saying, "Hey, God gave it to us; it's ours, and all of you other guys, you better get out of the way because we're coming to take back what's rightfully ours." I don't know if I paraphrased him right, but that's the sense I get from the leadership of Israel right now, is that they're taking this Zionism very, very literally, and that's that again is, as you said, well, to place yourself above all the other religions or people of the world, uh, that's not Christianity. I don't know. I mean, I tend to not talk about Judaism or Israel because it's a third rail for me. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know enough about it to have an informed opinion. But since you raised the issue, I think it is one of the things that is big on my mind right now. Is do we really, as a country, do we have a national purpose in supporting Benjamin Netanyahu's dreams of a greater Israel?
I had on my program last night, Ron Unz, right, of Unz.com, the Ukraine. I was just looking, a Ukrainian Jewish American. I guess his background, his parents were Ukrainian Jewish, but we talked a bit about this, but yeah, he was making the case. He didn't think the Hamas attack was an inside job, and it was sound, his reasoning as well, that um, there's this myth of IDF, Israeli invincibility, and that if Netanyahu had tried to plant some sort of false flag, there's a lot of within Israel. There's an entire group that they don't like Netanyahu, so it would have been difficult to carry something out like that as well. Maybe they were just weak, and Hamas, just um, surprised them, and that also makes sense. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think we've gone too far. I mean, look in Germany now. One part of Germany says if you want to become a naturalized citizen, you have to pledge allegiance to the state of Israel. You have to um, state that you believe in the right of the state of Israel to exist, which I do. But I became a naturalized Mexican like 5 years ago. It would have been odd if the state of Mexico asked me, like, to become a Mexican now, you must also say you believe in the right of a foreign country to exist. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, on principle. I mean, in principle, that's kind of strange. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's strange times we're living in, John.
And the House of Representatives is basically being told, you got to stand up and raise your hand when we say, do you believe in Zionism? And they say, yes, we do. I mean, it's the same thing as saying, you have to agree that the state of Israel has a right to exist and to take on its ancient historical and God-given rights in order to be a congressman in the United States.
Yeah, again, I think we're going too far on that one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're going almost in uncharted territory here, and there's too many things being asked of the United States. I think we need to turn inward now, kind of like what our founding fathers said. Get untangle ourselves from the stuff we're doing abroad, and we have growing problems at home.
Well, we certainly have a virtual war going on between the DNC and the Republican leadership, and then another war going on between the Trump people and uh, the centrists, the Uniparty. Uh, there's not much action on the other side. In the left, Bernie Sanders pretty much just took took the mantle of progressivism and went out into the snow and sat down in a lawn chair with a an Eskimo hood on and shivered on behalf of the progressive movement, so that we would all know that it's on its last legs and dying out. So there's no progressive movement anymore. There is the MAGA thing on the right, if you will. But inside, between the Democrats and the Republicans, I was at the National Press Club a couple of weeks ago in a private event. But you hear things said, and one of the things that was said was that the when did the cancer come into our political system? And I really didn't have an answer for that. I think it's been there a long time, but the answer, drum roll, was Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich did it, and I hadn't thought about Newt Gingrich in a long time. I thought, here's this, rather cheek, big jowled, tenor voiced, blue eyed blonde that seems to have a lot of money in places that he can be, but who cares? I mean, but uh, organizing the Republican Party to block to shut down the government, I think, is what was referred to, although it wasn't specifically said. But when the Republicans decided, that they would rather shut down the government than agree to a compromise with the Democrats over the budget, that was the beginning of this war. And I, just from the atmosphere I felt, there is a serious doubt that we could ever uh, unite and get rid of our party system right now. It's the people are so committed to their parties. The Democrats are very committed to the DNC goals, and the Republicans, while split, are definitely all in agreement that the Democrats would be a disaster if they won in 2024. So we have a divided and fractured electorate. It's not the first time, but it does make it a lot harder to make any progress in terms of fighting against these deep forces that we recognize but are still unable to expose enough for the public to take a hold of the ideas.
Yeah, and I think we are in this decline. Um, Hold on a second. Someone's trying to call me here. Oh
Sure.
my goodness. Let me block them. All right. All right. Yeah. We're in this decline. A lot of people I read. Charles Hugh Smith put out a great. He's a popular blogger featured on Zero Hedge often. He recently put out that talking about French Revolution. And initially he thought America would stay away from that, but now he thinks that we're seeing more signs that America could experience something like that. I think James Howard Kunstler's often talking about this, and I asked Ron Unz yesterday what he thinks about the year ahead, and he um, also thought that it was uh, Oh my goodness, dude. Keep calling me. All right, hold on a second. Uh, that Trump, Trump is the only candidate, and I think that as well. I think Trump's going to come back, but I think it's going to be total chaos. And I wanted to read this quote from a legal man. Hold on a second. Which sort of I wanted to bring this up as well.
Sure.
Encapsulates some of my feelings. He posted this yesterday. He's been a guest of mine. He's a lawyer in Texas. He starred in the film Jones Plantation film, which is excellent. And he says, "Stop telling me about how things are getting better and people are waking up, etc., until you can name at least one single thing, even trending in the right direction." And there was this bill today that's being discussed. If I could just bring it up, that's going to expand the surveillance in America. It's absolutely insane. Um, it says buried in the House Intelligence Committee Section 702 reform bill, which is scheduled for a floor vote as soon as today, is the biggest expansion of surveillance inside the U.S. since the Patriot Act. Under Section 504 of the House Intelligence Committee's bill, any entity that has access to equipment on which communications may be transmitted or stored, such as an ordinary router, is fair game. What does this mean in practice? Hotels, libraries, coffee shops, and other places that offer Wi-Fi to their customers could be forced to serve as surrogate spies. They could be required to configure their systems to ensure that they can provide the government access to entire streams of communications. Even a repair person who comes to fix the Wi-Fi in your home would meet the revised definition. That person is an employee of a service provider who has access to equipment, your router, on which communications are transmitted. And so, again, I just see that as a consequence of what you're discussing, this uniparty system. Sure, they're both loyal to their parties, but at the same time, I think that's part of the game. At the same time, there's this uniparty on most things. They work together. On some things, not. It's kind of like a world that we call WWF wrestling. And then, I mean, look what they're doing here today. They want to expand the Patriot Act, where if you go now, you travel in the U.S., you go to a hotel, you use their internet. Now the government can tap into that and then see everything that you're doing. And then if you're committing a thought crime while you're at a conference, on a business trip, on vacation, at a hotel, they could come, theoretically come get you or see what you're doing. And so, but it seems a lot of people that I talk to, like Ron Unz and others, people just see it's going to be Trump on the Republican side. On the Democrat, I don't know who it's going to be. So yeah, but I think it's going to be total chaos next year.
I would go a step further and say that, the evidence of these military age young men coming across the border is an indication to me that one side is not going to accept the outcome of the election, and or do whatever it takes to prevent such an outcome, whatever it takes. This sometimes requires some military style muscle, and I think these people are being put into important voting places in cities that are marginal in terms, and that there are also caches of arms in places where, like in Gladio, that this Gladio system exists in the United States. It has for a long time. And there are, places where these armed caches are, and now they're bringing in military age men to do what? I mean, they're not coming with families, as the pictures that I see. So this is very troubling to me. You say it's going to be bad. It could be chaos. I think it could be worse.
Yeah, and I've had on my program folks covering this on boots on the ground. A guy called Hernando Arce, New Yorker, now in Texas, and he's there at the border filming, interviewing migrants, and getting some really interesting footage of them themselves saying how there are NGOs, UN NGOs are making all of this possible, financing all of this. There was a clip I saw. This, Bill Malugin of Fox. others, I can't recall their names right now, covering all of this, and how you're seeing military aged men from all around the world pouring in. And some have explained how again, the Uniparty, the Republicans like it because it's cheap labor. The Democrats, it's the voters, and the globalists, it's to balkanize, break down America, and maybe some foreign adversaries as well. These people will be used to carry out strategy of tension in the United States, perhaps this year. Even some have said Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela has emptied out his prisons. There's evidence to this as well. I've seen actual footage of Venezuelan criminals, gangs like in Florida, um, admitting that this is what they were sent to do. And so, again, if you are Maduro in Venezuela, that's a rational action. If I mean, I'm not approving it, but if you think about it, if I'm Venezuela and Maduro, that's something that I would do. So
Well, what about annexing 70% of your neighboring country? How would you do that?
I would do that as well if I were Venezuela. But I was thinking about that. It's kind of what makes me think, why is he so nonchalant about it's part Banana Republic stuff, but also it just feels like he feels there won't be any consequences anymore from Washington. It's almost like he doesn't care. It's like they smell like vultures, or hyenas that they can smell the blood. And that kind of feels like the global South, the multipolar world, is sensing now the weakness in Washington and Brussels. And they're just acting like there's no more sheriff in town and we can do what we want. No, I feel like that's what I'm starting to sense.
Well, that reminds me of at the beginning of this week, there was a visit by Vladimir Putin to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and to Riyadh, to Saudi Arabia. And the event was colossal. They had the jets flying with the Russian colored smoke all over the place, and they had the red carpet treatment for Putin, and you see Putin with the Arab leaders just smiling away and shaking hands, and the implication is that they've made a deal. That Putin is now in the catbird seat. He's got the control that he's always been waiting to have. Now they're perhaps going to push through the Ukrainian lines and gain that territory in the Ukraine, however much they want, as they overpower the Ukrainian army in the wintertime. The technology they have, the ability to build these really sophisticated drones now. I don't know if you saw, but they now have drones with night vision, armed drones with night vision. So the drones fly at night when the Ukrainians are trying to sneak around, and they see them anyway. It's remarkable how much, and I think, in a large sense, this war has been a great testing ground for the big arms companies to just see what the military comes up with and what works, what doesn't, and kill off a few thousand young men at the same time. It's worth it. This terrible war, and the terrible war in Israel just really tear at everybody's hearts, doesn't it?
Yeah, that last comment you made, I saw yesterday photos of the sons. I think the mayor of Kiev was Klitschko, the former boxer. His sons and other sons of the Ukrainian elite are partying it up, literally partying it up abroad and in outside of Ukraine. I mean, just the hypocrisy. Meanwhile, I just saw this morning another clip of how in Ukraine they're going to like gyms to serve summons to young Ukrainian men to serve and fight to die in this war of civil war between Slavs, this depopulation, globalist depopulation event, right? Ukraine versus Russia. Meanwhile, the elites, they should send their sons. I will believe, Robert, whatever one thinks of RFK Jr., we've talked about him before. Hey, his son went to fight in the Ukraine war. So um, put your money where your mouth is, or total hypocrites. But regarding Putin, it just does seem like the tides are turning. Whatever one thinks of multipolarity, I've got my doubts about it, and BRICS. But Lavrov keeps repeating the West's 500-year dominance is coming to an end. Others keep repeating this. I don't think they'd be talking that way if it weren't true, because then they'd get an egg on their face, right? And in the Oriental world, in the East, face is very important, right? In Japan and China. So you're not going to say something unless you're confident that's the way what's going, in my opinion. And so I think the tide seems to be turning for whatever reason. Maybe it's the we do see this in the West, this self-imposed decline. The globalists are trying to break down the West. The tide is shifting towards the East. And I just, what you mentioned, Putin in the Middle East, that it just seems like the times they are changing, and the 500-year Western dominance is coming to an end.
Well, not without a fight, it's not. Joe Biden will take all of your sons and all of your uncles and your mothers and their daughters too, and throw them in the front line if we run out of Ukrainian cannon fodder. So no, this is not over. It's not going to be over until Joe Biden's long out of office and his successors have been defeated. Uh, Joe Biden is an extension of the Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama regime that has been running all kinds of dirty stuff behind the scenes and getting away with it just because the media focuses everybody on Orange Man Trump. And that's got to come out. This is one thing that you mentioned, Bobby Kennedy, and of course he has a new book out about Wuhan. And is that something you delve into? Is the whole controversy over biowarfare?
I've got his first book behind me. I haven't even had time to read it yet, but I do plan on getting to Wuhan. Um, Again, I think everything points back to us. It's like The Prisoner with Patrick McGoohan in the final episode. He takes the mask off, and it's Patrick McGoohan, and he's making a statement there that we are the enemy, basically. And then, this stuff was probably outsourced. It's been outsourced to Africa, biowarfare stuff, to Ukraine, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and China. But ultimately, it's the Pentagon, it's DARPA, it's BARDA, all these crazy groups who are, I view the source of all this madness. It was posted yesterday that the British military intelligence, I don't know exactly, it was a 77th Brigade, GCHQ, I don't know what, they were involved in censoring dissenting views on COVID. That's, in my mind, that's right there. That's further proof for the normies that COVID was a military intelligence operation, when you've got across the board American, European, British military intelligence censoring dissenting views. Why would they be doing that? It's just a military intelligence psychological operation. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and say, I am now on very thin ice with my YouTube channels. I've lost 2 entire channels. I have 2 left that I'm hanging on to. I just got a notice from YouTube that McDuff Lives 3 is now being restricted. It's not allowed to grow. Not going to get any tender love from the YouTube management, because for some reason they don't think I'm part of their happy community. So that could go, but just the mere mention of what you've just said could also give them another excuse to just lose both of my channels. So I am broadcasting on both my YouTube channels this morning, and the reason is because I have been trying for a year now to draw people over to the Rumble channel, and I've only got 535 subscribers. Whereas I've had thousands of subscribers on YouTube. So you guys, if that are watching me on YouTube, if you haven't, please sign up for McDuff Lives on Rumble, because this could all disappear momentarily, just by mentioning the fact that some people have these theories. Uh, you and I are not medical doctors. We can't diagnose what happened. We are not eyewitnesses to anything. But we can, I think, speak about what other people have said and what other people's theories are, not because we're saying this is information, quote unquote, but my experience is they'll take anything they want to and call it medical disinformation, and so it's a good thing really to get away from YouTube, since they have this. And if you look behind it, it is military. The people that are pulling the button, that are pushing the buttons that say, censor this guy or give this person a strike. I think that these are E3s sitting in cubicles, uh, doing their time, and not thinking at all, just saying, oh, if you say this, boom, you get a bad mark, you get a strike. So I'm really sick of YouTube. I'm sorry to say it. I think it's a great platform. It's really got the most wonderful technical support and everything else that you could ask for. But folks, do me a favor. Sign up for my McDuff Lives Rumble channel, and then so when one day when the lights go out on YouTube, I'll know that I've still got you, and that's very important to me. And I just had to say that because even if you just say what you just said, as you know, Hrvoje, they can jump on that and take you down.
Yeah, I've subscribed to your Rumble, all your channels, and people should.
Thank you.
I plan on I've never really done live streaming, and I actually plan on doing that maybe in the new year. Um, and my focus was going to be because you can live stream to Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter X, as we are now. I think also Telegram, which I'm going to include, and YouTube, but I might exclude YouTube and just upload later the broadcast or a snippet of it, depending on the guest. Because as you say,
Yeah.
I don't want to censor myself or my guests, and so if there's a subject that we might discuss that is no, I just won't stream to YouTube. Although I think I think what happens first is the AI. So I don't know how it works when it's live versus if it's pre-recorded. I think the AI goes through first and transcribes what's said. If they detect something, they'll flag it, um, or take it down, or send it for review by a human operator. But I do think, and I think you should focus more on Rumble and try to grow away from YouTube, because it's only a matter of time for all of us. That I don't expect my YouTube to be there forever. I don't even care. I upload everywhere first, and then to YouTube as an afterthought. And I think
Mhm.
that's the attitude to have, because that's the attitude they have with us. And I use it because I still have it. Um, so yeah, and what was gonna I'm forgetting what else I was going to mention, but I guess yeah, I can't recall.
Well, as someone who's been live streaming on YouTube for 5 years, I can only remember two times when they took my show down during the show. The first time when I was talking about the 2012 London Olympics, and
Mhm.
a certain prince who now happens to be a certain king, and I mentioned him and talked about his role in that creepy presentation. If you remember the 2012 Olympics opening with the what clearly was supposed to look like a little viruses running around, and then the National Health Service comes out, and you have the dancing nurses, and all this is predictive programming in 2012 for what we started to see in 2019. But they once I started nailing them on that, they just took that show right down. And then the other time was one time when I was talking to George Webb, and I can't remember what it was that I said, but they just boom took it right down. Other than that, I haven't had anybody take my show down while it's on, but they will take it down real fast. They'll take it down before you get a chance to think. You know, maybe I should go into this YouTube show that I just did with Hrvoje and clip out that word that he said, But you don't have time to do that anymore. They'll just boom, they'll get you right away, because that's the AI. It hits you real fast. And then of course you can have personal enemies. That I think that I was involved with a personal enemy of George Webb's that was taking it out on me because I was helping George to keep his reach going when they took his channels down. So um, well, anyway, a lot of interesting stuff in Bobby Kennedy's new book, the Wuhan uh, book, and as I've discussed with other people, the part that exposes the U.S. biowarfare program from World War II to now is very, very important, and it's an important disclosure. So I put that in the category of good news for this week, that we've gotten a lot of information by somebody that must know the reliable truth from the research and the position that he has with Children's Health Defense and all the work he's done about vaccines over the years. And yes, I just said that word.
I was just going to add. I remember what was going to say, and what you mentioned, that a lot of this censorship. I think it's not going away. It's not accidental. It's a very deliberate, vicious, intentional, sinister, and that you've got these units. It really goes back to the Department of Homeland Security, CISA, and then probably like NATO and then other agencies that they know what they're doing. Mayorkas, the head of DHS, he knows that we know that he's lying. They're shameless, and that they have some evil, and they're content with it. They're happy, like, to go along with this evil. They're evil people, working to carry out this totalitarian technocratic program. Yesterday I was just going through some old stuff and discovered I had an old PayPal account from like 15 years ago that's been unused that I still had access to. They banned me last year, the DHS and CISA, from the new PayPal account that I had been using as my business. And then I just closed my previous account. And because I thought even if I started using it, it would probably at some point they would delete it again. And in case, on principle, I don't want to use it because they've already banned me. But you mentioned also predictive programming. And I think that's important because there's this new Netflix film that just dropped, Leave the World Behind, produced by the Obamas.
Oh no.
And I haven't seen it yet. My cleaning lady here in Mexico has seen it before I have. We're just discussing it, and but you see, this is how they operate. I watched that Utopia TV show that had been recorded in 2018, was shown in 2020, was exactly what happened with COVID, and now they're releasing this before 2024. And this talks about cyber attacks and all this stuff. And you look at the news media now, just a few days ago, they're talking about how China is now infiltrating U.S. infrastructure. And China is the boogeyman, right? China's not doing it, or if they are, it's just been what China has been doing and what America has been doing to China, what all governments do. So it's nothing really new. And so they're creating now this boogeyman you see in the movie, in the news, and you can see it building up. And that's what they're going to do, I think, next year. Because what they want to bring in is the technocracy, the cashless system, the digital ID. And so I think they're already prepping us for, I'm reading in Sri Lanka over the weekend, massive blackout. In the US, they're talking about how, I think that's part of the reason where they're taking down hydrocarbons. They're saying if Kerry just said we got to take down coal in America. And one of the experts said, if we do that, you're going to have a very fragile electric grid. Again, that's going to be good for those who want to carry out the elites who want to carry out the cyber attack, because the solution is going to be, we need a digital ID. We need everyone to have this digital ID so we can then, control your access, because, hey, cyber attacks, we need you to have just the digital ID. And so I kind of think that's what's coming in. And Klaus Schwab, they warned about Cyber Polygon a few years back, and they said, you can go to their website still. It says they believe it's going to happen before 2025 or by 2025. So isn't it interesting? This movie's coming out now as we go into 2024, and so this is sort of what I'm fearing. One of my biggest fears right now.
Another colleague of ours, Peter Duke of the Duke Report, has just published an interesting little book that he put together. He's taken the text of the Protocols of Zion and taken away all the references to Judaism or Israel or the Jews or the Freemasons or whatever else is in there that's kind of old and inflammatory, and just substituted the terms like the power elite do this and that. And then he goes through all the different protocols, which he changes into principles. And you say, okay, here's one of the principles. And the principles are always these Machiavellian awful things that you do. We will fool them into thinking that we're going to take care of their money in a secure financial system, but then they'll know, we'll know that if the time is right, we can all snatch it all. Those kind of diabolical thoughts are filled in there, and to me, it seems like predictive programming. I think that was one of Peter's points in making the book, is to say, look, it doesn't matter whose benefit this was written for, or whether it was actually a forgery or whatever it was. If you look at it, it is a cookbook for totalitarianism. And that's another thing that I've been looking at this week. I'll be talking to Peter tomorrow night on my show at 8 p.m. if people would like to join us for that, because I never thought of going that far with such a difficult and controversial topic. But it took some courage to write what he did. But I think when you look at it uh, objectively and you say, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that happened. That happened. That's happening now. Predictive programming is not new. And I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I often think usually when they say something is a hoax or a forgery, it's true. Like a report from Iron Mountain, 1967.
Yeah,
And if you read that, it's like it's literally happening. And supposedly it was a dozen elites that met in the mountain bunker to create this long report. I mean, if you think logically, it would make no sense. For what purpose to make this hoax? Because you got to pay. Someone's got to spend a lot of time, weeks, months, writing this fake book. Like I wouldn't do that. Like, who would do that? Who would sit just to write a fake book that nobody would read? Like, it makes no sense. It makes more sense that these people actually met to figure out, because the point of Report from Iron Mountain is to see how to have a world government and to control the world, but replacing war as the social control mechanism. They talk about Peace Corps as a substitute, climate, faking international terrorism, alien invasion. And going back to protocols, I've never read the entire thing. I do have behind me fantastic book. I recommend the by Morić Joly, written in the 1800s, The Dialogue in Hell between Montesquieu and Machiavelli. Amazing book. They say that the protocols were based on that book. It's translated into English now. You can get it on Amazon. And it's just like what you say with the protocols. Like, I don't believe that the Jews run the world. Maybe they're one interlocking. So, maybe there's an elite group that's interlocking with the British elite, with Saudi Arabian elite, whatever. But the content of the protocols is
right.
true, and it's come to pass. So how can then people say this, be dismissive of it, when literally it's coming to pass?
And putting warning signs all over it. Do not look here. Don't go here. Here be dragons. Don't even open the cover of this. And Henry Ford was a Nazi, and all you really get is the flack that tells you, A, don't look at it, and B, there's nothing in it worth seeing. But I think Peter and I will have a fun discussion tomorrow night on that subject. And this has been really a pleasure and fun for me this morning, Hrvoje. Thank you.
Always great to chat and see what you're up to, and that sounds like an interesting discussion you're going to have tomorrow.
Yeah, controversial, you bet. But we'll go there because nobody else is going to do it. We have to do this. You and I and the people that are sticking our necks out here. We're sticking our necks out. We are willing to stand up against what is the a force that I can't definitely name, but a force that I can feel and see, and how it's been tearing us apart during our lifetimes. That's what I'm here for, to do what I can to make it stop.
Hey, I do this because I want to figure out what's going on. There's not much money in it, and you're going to get into trouble for doing this stuff. So,
All right. That sounds like fun to me. Thank you very much again, Hrvoje Morić of Geopolitics and Empire and TNT Radio.